Is it time to move forward in your life, yet you're struggling with how you are actually going to do that? Well, I'm Michele Thill with Newland Wellness, and today let me share with you a secret that will help you with ease. Well, I'm going to put out there that it's going to help you with ease, right? Let's set the intention that what I'm going to share is going to shift your perspective so that instead of looking at the moving forward and the changes that you are facing, not doing so looking at it as being hard, but being added with more ease. That's actually a micro secret in the secret I'm going to share that does have a huge impact, is how we view things, how we choose to look at things. And that's why, first off, I don't want to deem things with a bad or good judgment, because I feel like when I personally do, then I start setting limits and boundaries for myself. So I'm going to start out that way, and now I want to share with you what the secret is that I came on to talk about and who I heard it from. So I was listening to Dee Wallace, the actress, the mom from E.T., and so much more, who is also a healer. And she was talking in these times that we are living in, that she felt the word of the year, the word of the decade, was adapt. And that really got me thinking. She said she started using adapt as a tool when she was facing things that were overwhelming, when she had to handle different situations, when things were being thrown at her, instead of crumbling, instead of shriveling up. And of course, wouldn't that be something, you just feel like you do want to do that at times, but we know it doesn't benefit you or anyone if you do, right? So she said she started looking at this and saying, how can I adapt and make this work for me? And I thought, wow, I absolutely love that. And I have to share that with you because we're in life challenges, opportunities. That's another way to look at it. Instead of feeling that the world or your world is challenging you, what if it was an opportunity for you to grow, to learn something about yourself, to hone in a skill, to realize maybe that you're stronger and more capable? Looking at it at that perspective and bringing in being able to adapt to make what's now happening something that's workable in your life. I realized that I have been adapting now for years as I've been on my own for the first time. It's been 10 years now. And I think about how when my marriage blew up and my ex decided to leave, how easy it was, if you will, to stay in the mode of, oh, woe is me. What am I going to do? I've never lived on my own. I've never had to support myself. This is so wrong. This is so unfair. And I could have stayed there and I could have stayed stuck. And I could have taken actions based on those thoughts and walked down a different path than I chose to. I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now having this conversation if I followed those thoughts. And instead, I started to adapt. My life was going to be different. I went from living in a big house to now living in a lovely condo. I had to adapt to life in an apartment building, if you will, as opposed to my own home, my own house, because this is a home here. I had to adapt to supporting myself. I had to adapt in many ways. And when I look at it now, saying the word adapt, how does that make you feel? That actually makes me feel more peaceful, more accepting, more confident in moving forward. Instead of just looking at life as throwing all this stuff at me and I'm going to stand strong like some captain of a ship in the middle of the storm, steering through it, not changing. This is wrong. This is not going to happen. And letting that storm maybe overturn my boat. By adapting, you not only move forward, but you move forward with more confidence because you're taking actions and you're learning along the way, learning about yourself, learning about situations, learning about others. And that's where true confidence comes in, when you take action and you start doing things. And so many of us as women feel we lack confidence because we feel like if we try something, we need to be perfect at it. Otherwise we failed, and there's such shame involved in that. And I'm here to blow that myth out of the water, that is not the case. That is holding you small and keeping you stuck. So by taking that time to just adapt, what changes are happening in your life, you can end up thriving. Now, it may not seem like it. You might think, oh, that's too much. I'm just trying to survive. And I'm here to say you can do so much more. Take it in baby steps. Don't overwhelm yourself with the thought of that. Thriving isn't about being perfect. Thriving is about showing up in all your brilliance and imperfections and learning and growing and evolving along the way. So let me give you some examples of how when life throws different changes at you. And let's face it, even though my focus is on women over 50, we're all facing changes in the times that we are in. And we can look at that as a bad thing, or we can accept that this is what's happening. And and I'm going to adapt. Now, notice I stop myself, because if you say I have to adapt, it's like I don't wanna, but I have to. And what if we put a positive spin on, you know what, it's gonna benefit me. It's gonna benefit everyone around me if I just adapt. Doesn't that have a different energy to it? And so let me start out with, say for example, you have some social invitations coming up, and we are getting to the point now where we will be getting closer to the holiday season. There are things that are coming up in our lives, and you feel uncomfortable, especially if you were once a 2 and now you're a 1, and how are any social settings going to be handled? Now, you could just say, well, I don't want to go. I don't feel comfortable. I don't have a partner. All of the talking myself out of it, making it wrong. If it's something you would really like to go to, not that you feel obligated to go to, but that you would like to go to, but you just have fears about going to, what if you just adapt and say, I'm going to limit myself. I'm going to go for an hour. I'll see how it goes, and then I can just excuse myself and leave, or I can find I can stick around and stay. Or you bring a friend. I've done this where I wanted to go to something, but I felt uncomfortable going, and I just adapted and saying, you know what, I'm gonna go for the hour, and I've gone, and I found out that I knew other people more so than I thought. There were great conversations. There were times I thought, oh, I'm really not gonna know anyone, or I'm gonna know only one person, and they're hosting, they're gonna be busy, and I found I had a lovely time. So it's adapting is us opening up to new possibilities instead of just, well, this is the way I've always done it and I can't do it that way anymore, so now I'm not just going to do it, right? Boy, doesn't that sound like the little girl in us that's just like, nope, not going to happen. Let us experiment now. Let us have curiosity and wonder. Doesn't that change how you're feeling about things? I feel as I'm speaking in this way, just a much more lightness about it instead of the heaviness that we end up feeling because of the situations that are happening. Another one is meal times. You know, I went from cooking for my family to now all of a sudden, my kids were grown. They were making their way, working their way out of the nest, if you will, when my marriage ended and my son ended up leaving. My daughter stayed a little bit longer with me. And I was used to cooking for a family. And now all of a sudden, it's just me. And I had to adapt. Am I going to be someone who's going to no longer cook? Spend a lot more money on takeout or restaurants? Am I going to be someone that is not going to maybe eat as healthy because of that? Or am I going to be someone that's going to start learning to batch cook and freezing things and making dinners? I don't mind leftovers. And I found it's also financially economical because I was spending a lot of money on groceries even by myself. And there were things I was wasting. Can you relate? That now with the batch cooking, I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat every night. I don't have to spend the time cooking. I could save money in doing so. So I adapted to that, and I still set a nice place and use nice, the table settings and everything, because I want to enjoy my mealtime just like I did with my family, and I'm adapting to a way that's working for me now to still accomplish that. What about the lonely evenings? You know, and sometimes evenings are the worst because during the day we can keep ourselves busy or we're working or whatever, and then you're alone. And especially now that the light's starting to shift again and it's getting darker earlier, are you feeling that loneliness? So instead of wallowing in that, oh, woe is me, and every night feeling depressed, how do you adapt? How do you make this work for you? How do you make time to connect with some friends? Maybe you meet them for a tea, or maybe you're on the phone, or maybe you do some texting, or maybe you do a Zoom call or something with someone. How do you start adapting? Or maybe you volunteer time for an organization that you care for, where you're starting to meet new people and bring them into your life. Or you find a meetup that appears safe, where you can start finding people who have that interest that you now do in this stage. Because sometimes too, in going through a life transition, that also means not only have you lost a partner, but you might have lost some family and friends along the way. And how do you start adapting and finding ways to bring in new people into your life? Another would be a fitness goals. You know me. I love to walk. I love to be outside walking. And On days when I'm not able to, does that mean I just sit on my butt and not move at all? No, I adapt. I will do yoga. I will do stretches. I will make sure I'm just getting up and walking around more at work or while I'm home, because I know I don't have those steps, those extra steps from being outside. So I make it work for me when I have to be inside. Another one is the family dynamics. You know, if you're like me, your kids are grown. My son is married. My daughter has a boyfriend, and they are doing their own thing. And I'm so happy for them. And at the same time, I don't have the time with them like I once did. Can you relate? You know, it's one of those things that it's a good thing, because if I did have a lot of time with them, that would mean that they really wouldn't have had a partner in their life, or a partner that they're that connected to, or whatever the situation might be. So I want them to be flying and doing their own thing. And so how I adapt is, instead of us physically seeing each other as much as we used to, even though they both still live here, even though I'd be on the phone with them a lot more, and it isn't so much now, we text. You know, we can text on and off throughout the day, here and there, not overwhelming, but a little bit. Sharing a funny, asking a question, whatever, so that I stay connected with them, even though it's not as it once was. And realizing again that that's okay. It's choosing to see things differently as well, and realizing, though I miss the relationship we once had, that they are so much better off having the relationships that they do have now, and I'm so happy for them. Another one is, if you have like the financial concerns, is there a way that you can adapt? Maybe you bring in some extra money, you start tapping into a craftiness that you have, or something that could be a little like side hustle for you. Or it might be you sit down and you take that hard look at the numbers in that moment to see what you're bringing in and what's going out, and adapting and making cuts in areas that you realize you really don't need, you maybe just want, and you maybe not even be using it. Like, say, for example, getting that morning coffee out when you could very well have your coffee here and make it special here, or taking that cup of coffee outside and for a walk. Instead of eating out, like I said, you know, maybe you start batch cooking, even if you're batch cooking just for a few days, or you batch cook a bunch and freeze a bunch, and then you have variety. You know, I spent time on Sunday doing that. And even though it kind of kills my Sunday for a little bit while I'm spending that time cooking, it saves me all week. So think about this, because some of us are not adapting, and we're getting into credit card debt. We're spending way more than we need to. And gosh, isn't that an extra stress and burden you don't need? And so you can start adapting and actually helping yourself. And speaking of helping yourself, let me give you the last one that I have as an example, and that is your morning routine. When you get up in the morning and you start doing your routine, you know, you get up, you brush your teeth, you maybe make your favorite drink, then what do? Is what you're doing helping you to have a great day or a good day? or is it hindering that? Are you on social media? Are you on the news? Are you maybe in contact with some people that are just weighing everything down? Are you waking up worrying about what happened the day before and bringing yesterday into today? I want you to be mindful of this. And everything I'm sharing is practical. And there's simple ways to start moving forward. And it is a practice. It is not a one and done. Gosh, wouldn't that be great? And some days, even I am struggling through it, truthfully. There are days where I am just off. And I'm aware of that, the self-awareness and realizing, wow, look at where I'm at. This is not where I normally am. And being grateful that I'm not always there. Because if I lived just there, I'd be living a totally different life. So using the tools, using the mindset, using different mantras that help you. Like, I choose to see this differently. When you're feeling something's thrown at you and you're hit by it, instead of right away reacting, instead pausing, taking that moment, breathe, and say, you know what? Let's really take a look at this. And then when you have the ability, I choose to see this differently. You have that choice to start looking at what's happening differently. And your morning routine, if it's set up with you and a lot of the negatives, gosh, that's hard to shake it off throughout the day. It sets the tone for you to continue to see all the negatives, because what you put your attention on, what you put your focus on, is what ends up being what you see. It's due to the reticular activating system in our brain, the RAS, that filters things in and out. So if you're focusing on the negatives, well, your brain's like, okay, she wants the negatives, and it's going to give you more negatives to see, and you miss any of the positives. So I start my morning with some energy work that I learned from Donna Eden. I do gratitude. I do some affirmations. Affirmations meaning I say things that I believe that is redirecting my energy. Energy needs direction, so I'm directing my energy to the positives. Like, today is a fabulous day. I set that intention. I don't say it's going to be. I say it is. I start putting out what I want. That's what I want to share. That's the secret when you start adapting, is then you start creating the life you want instead of fighting the life you have and feel you don't want. So some things to think about, because in these times, in your life and in the world, what I want you to feel is you have more control than you realize or are led to believe. That you can tap into your inner power, and that you can bring more peace and joy into your life each and every day. A little bit here, a little bit there, and it expands and expands. And of course, the more you practice what I'm sharing, the more you start opening up to new opportunities and possibilities. And instead of just staying stuck in the life that you've now been handed, you take it and mold it into the life you now want to live. Little by little, one baby step at a time. I just want you to know I believe in you, and I'm here for you. Please share with me, what resonated with you? What were your takeaways? Please share with me. How do you adapt? When life is throwing things at you, what do you do so that you aren't just a victim, but you start rising up to be that victor? And please like, follow, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who could benefit from what I have to say. Until next time, be well.